DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks, and you're watching NORB-Cam.
What's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you with another roundtable here on this Wednesday. And I'm very excited because we've got a special guest joining the roundtable. A couple of roundtable members missing, but, the show must go on. So I'm excited for today's topic. We are going to be talking about who is the best team in the NFC West. And we're going to break this down based on a lot of different ideas, different factors, different variables. A lot of stuff been happening, especially on the Seahawks front. We're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody, please, if you wouldn't mind, smash that like button right over there, hit the sub button, and ring that notification bell. It greatly helps my channel. I'd really appreciate that. And I just want to also thank all the NORBFAM members who have supported my channel, the MVPs like Nick LeBeau, Anthony D, Jesse Soap, Ryker Rockstar, NINJA-CRK, Lori Cross, and the All-Pro members, Maria Maraj, Jason E, the KC Sportsnerd, Aidan Pham, BJ, Michael Page, Albert Delgado, and of course, IBeDave Jones. So without further ado, let's get into it. It is the Roundtable special edition. We are not joined today. Unfortunately, Coach Bill Marsh is out because he's had some serious back issues the last week or so, and hoping he has a full recovery soon so he can get back on the show. So, Coach Marsh, we miss you. Hope you have a full recovery and start feeling better soon. And Seahawks Martin is on vacation, spring break for our little buddy Seahawks Martin. So, here's who we got today. We've got 4 special contributors here today, and the first one to start is there on the top left. We've got special guest Paul Gallant from 710 ESPN Radio. You got his information there, his Twitter handle, his Instagram, and he's also on Facebook. Check out the links in the description. But Paul Gallant, it is a pleasure to have you back on the show. You were my guest a few weeks ago, and now you get to be a guest on the roundtable. So I appreciate you making the time to join our lovely little panel here to talk about the Seahawks and all things football.
I appreciate the invite a lot. I'm looking forward to this, guys. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on. All right. But we gotta introduce the rest of the gang, even though most of you know them. But in case you're new, quickly, just gotta make sure you guys know who are the players here. So to the top right there is the always sharply dressed Calvin Domingo at Steezy Way and Steezy A. Smith. Calvin, it's good to have you on the show, man. What you got going on?
Always a pleasure, big brother. First of all, I just want to say, Mr. Paul, it is an honor to have you on the show. I actually started listening to 17 when Seahawks Martin talked about you possibly coming on. I think that was a couple of months ago. And so ever since then, I've been listening to you, and especially Stacy. I think I have a little thing for her. But she's real cool. But on my end of things, Calvin Domingo, a.k.a. Steezy A. Smith, just dropped an NBA video earlier today. I'll get into more of that later on. But always a pleasure and super excited for what's to come.
All right. And our next one to just around my corner here is Noah Boelter with a new ID. We just kind of started from this out today at Squabo Says. So this is Noah Boelter, Squabo. Also, like Calvin, studying to be in the broadcast business, currently going to Wazoo. And Squabo Says, I got to start using that handle now. Squabo Says, what you got going on, man? What do you want to tell everybody about what you have going on here at YouTube and Instagram and social media?
Well, thank you so much, Norb. Once again, it's an honor to have Mr. Paul Gallant on the show. I have to give Paul some public credit for my name. I saw his handle that Gallant says, and it's a brilliant idea, and I have to give him credit because that's where the inspiration comes from. But I'm doing a complete rebranding. Formerly DJ Squabo, now Squabo. And there's going to be a new logo. It's already done. I just need to put it up, and I ran out of time before the show. So after the show, the logo's up. The entire rebrand is out there on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube at Squabo Says. That is my new hand.
All right. And as I said, Noah Squabo says is going to Wazoo. And that brings our connection to our final guest, no stranger to the show, but always got to make time to introduce him. Brian Abker, former sports radio DJ at KJR. You can find him at Abker, also a Wazoo product. You and Noah have way too many stories talking about all the good times over at Wazoo. But as a Husky, you don't need to waste too much time on that. But Brian Abker, from the shores of beautiful Lake Washington, the sun's so bright he's got to wear shades. Look at that. We can finally see the view. Instead of cop cars at the night in the parking lot behind him, we see a beautiful,
That's right, yeah.
beautiful view. Brian, it's great to see you in the sun. Missed you, man. It's good to have you back on here. Uh-oh. Got a little bit of a hiccup.
That I have nothing going on like Steezy and Squabo. I mean, Steezy's got merch. Squabo's so deep in his career, he's rebranding. I don't even think I ever branded to begin with, so I got to learn from these young hustlers because they are dominating the scene. We miss Coach Marsh. He's got a bad back because of the ass kicking that he took from me on the Russell Wilson topic. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Coach. We love you. We need you back here. Get well soon.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So this is the round table, everybody. And normally the way our format of the show goes, we discuss some topics, and then we wrap up with maybe some calls, and then the usual trivia. Unfortunately, today we've got a hard out at 6:30. I don't think we'll have time to do trivia this time, and we're still working on some bugs because lately the Kahoot's been overrun by bots, people running bots and putting fake names in there, so it's kind of messed things up. So we're going to have to kind of work out and figure out how to work around that so it doesn't ruin it all for everybody. So we will get to that next time. But for now, I want to start getting into this topic of this who's the best in the NFC West. But before we do, I broke. So I had a video earlier today talking about the breaking news of Tyler Lockett and the extension that the Seahawks just gave him. 4 years, $69.2 million, $37 million guaranteed. Now I know that was not the topic of conversation on the tips of people's tongues. Everyone was probably talking about KJ Wright and Russell Wilson, but I don't think anyone was even thinking about Tyler Lockett and his contract. And suddenly, bam, 4 years, a bunch of money guaranteed. I wanted to kind of get everybody's reactions to that. What was your reaction? Is it positive or negative? What do you guys think? And Paul, as you're the guest here today, why don't we start with you? What's your reaction to the Tyler Lockett announcement? And I heard some of that on the radio earlier as I was listening to your program.
Yeah.
So, but you get to share it with the audience here. So what was your thoughts?
Happened right at the end of our morning show, Danny and Gallant, which you can hear 7 to 10 on 710 ESPN Seattle. And I saw it, and, I was relieved. I thought there was a small chance, just given the fact he was going into the last year of his contract, that maybe the Seahawks would look at that and say, he's getting up there in age. What do we do? But this is really big for a couple of reasons. First off, because it allows the Seahawks to create some additional cap space. He was going to be about a $15 million cap hit this coming season. So that's a lot. And you need to create some more space to get some of the guys back. Perhaps KJ Wright, who you were just talking about, back in the fold. I think most importantly is that if you want to make Russell Wilson happy, you now, over the next couple of years, are going to have, for Russell Wilson, arguably the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think it was huge to make sure that he is on this team. He is as reliable as it gets. And the almost Vulcan mind meld-esque connection that he and Russell Wilson have, especially when plays break down, is, I think, one of the most impressive improvisational tandems in the NFL. So this is a big move. It's smart for them to make it, and we'll see what the corresponding move is. I would imagine that will give the Seahawks an opportunity to perhaps bring KJ Wright back, coming off one of the best years of his career.
Yeah, I love the fact that everyone's saying, we don't have any money, they have no money. And then all of a sudden they just kind of wave a wand, do some things, type some keyboards, and all of a sudden, hey, contract extended, more money. All of a sudden, out of thin air. It's awesome. But let's go around the horns. Steezy A. Smith, what was your reaction to the news?
I was ecstatic. I woke up pretty late this morning, and the first notification I saw was Tyler Lockett heading back to Seattle on a 4-year, $69 million deal. And breaking down the numbers, this makes him the 10th highest paid receiver in the NFL in terms of average annual value. And so with that in perspective, I actually think Tyler Lockett is a top 10 receiver in football. He's long been underrated. And going off of what Paul was saying, I think this effectively shuts down all trade speculation, if there was any, because a lot of people were looking at, some candidates to be traded on the roster. And you look at Tyler Lockett, as Mr. Paul said, he's getting up there in age. This draft is a pretty deep draft for receivers. And so if we were looking to gain maybe a late first round pick or an early second round pick, Tyler Lockett would provide us with another pick. But I think that with us locking him up, I love it. I love it for us. It gives them, like Paul said, once again, the best receiving tandem in all of football. It's somewhat of a friendly deal.
Oh, seem to be having some internet issues. Okay, keep going. Sorry. A couple of glitches here on the internet, but we're good.
But yeah, all in all, I'm ecstatic. I'm sure Seattle's ecstatic. I'm sure Russ Wilson's ecstatic. Love the move.
Yeah. Hey, Squabos, how about you? Where were you when you heard the news? Were you also just waking up from a long night of slumber, or where were you when you heard the news? What was your reaction, man?
Well, it's actually the Murrow Symposium over here at Wazoo, so no long nights of slumber, unfortunately, but lots of long days of networking, and that was a great program while it was on. But what this Tyler Lockett re-signing means for Seattle is that Seattle is really doing everything that we can to improve our relationship with Russell Wilson, and this is exactly what we've been talking about since the beginning of the offseason, and it's been such an important thing for Seattle to need to focus on. If I'm dating a woman, right? I always go back to this. If I'm dating a woman and we get into an argument and we talk about potentially breaking up, after I get back with this woman, I'm going to do all these little things subconsciously to make her, or to encourage her to agree with me, to make her want me more, to make her look at me in a positive light. And I'm going to do that by signing a running back that's going to make him tweet. I'm going to go trade for the offensive lineman that he wants. And I'm going to re-sign his favorite artist that just had the most receptions in Seahawks franchise history this past year. And the year before this past year, he had the catch of the season against the Rams on Paul Allen night when he blew the kick from the uprights against the Rams at home in the action green uniform. So Tyler Lockett makes explosive plays. He's Russell Wilson's safety net. DK Metcalf, one of his biggest problems is that he doesn't catch all the balls that he's supposed to. That's not Tyler Lockett's problem. He's been consistent at that his whole career. He's also been consistent around the field, only missing, I believe, one game in his entire career. So this is a safety net for Russell Wilson. It's another move to make Russell Wilson more happy with Seattle, and that's why I think it is an absolutely brilliant signing, let alone the money.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So we're going to go to the man with the sunshine on his shoulders, Brian Abker. I mean, we're here for something. The audience might be wondering, what's all that noise back here? A kid screaming and motorboats going by? But I think it's probably
it's a party.
It's a party back there, man. So I might have to have you mute your microphone between takes when you're not talking, just so that it doesn't sound like our rooms are being invaded by motorboats and stuff. But for now, leave your mic open and tell me about your reaction to the Tyler Lockett. Are we all just in love with this? Is this a unanimous thing? Brian Abker.
Nah, I'm pissed. He's a bum. He's got terrible hands. He's a little person. I mean, come on. What are we doing? Of course, man. I loved it. I loved every aspect of it. And listen, I'm not going to call Tyler Lockett a possession wide receiver because he's far more than that. But for all intents and purposes, he is the team's possession wide receiver and safety net, as Squabo alluded to. And I want to see next year, I want to see games where he doesn't disappear. And maybe it was him, maybe it was Russ, but there was a couple games last season where Lockett didn't get many opportunities, and there's absolutely no reason for that. As great as DK Metcalf is, you got to get Lockett involved every single game, and this contract is a signification of that. In fact, I feel like the Seahawks probably would have done that whether or not they were trying to appease Russell Wilson. I think Lockett's an integral part of anything that they have going forward. So it's a great day for the Hawks, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A win-win. Saving money on the cap and keeping, currently, I think, the best receiver on the roster. DK Metcalf could soon leapfrog him. He's got to do a few more things and be a little bit more times around the block. But for right now, Lockett is best receiver on the roster, and so glad that they extended him. So, all right, so we all love that aspect of things. So now we can get into something that's maybe a little bit more debatable. And I want to talk about now our main topic here, our headline here. Who's the best team in the NFC West? And maybe what is our rankings of how things stack in the NFC West right now? And that, I think arguably NFC West probably still one of the best divisions in all of football. Getting better by the minute. Seems like every team is trying to one up the other. Like, oh, we got this guy. Oh, really? Well, we got this guy. Oh, really? Well, we just got the number 3 pick in the draft, guys. So now, really, who is the best in here? And I think let's do this kind of open forum here where we can just sort of jump in and let's crosstalk here. Let's cut each other out. Let's debate a little bit here, so we don't have to be super polite. Let's just jump in. If someone's got a counterpoint, let's just do it. So for the next 2-3 minutes, let's just talk about how it goes. But I'll start with Paul, and then let's just see where the argument goes, because I want to hear the pros and cons, and and if you don't think it's going to be a Seahawks friendly, fan-friendly opinion, that's okay, because we're keeping it real here, y'all. So, Paul, let's start with you, man.
Always.
Get this going.
Right.
Who is the best team in the NFC West right now?
Please, for the love of God, don't get mad at me. You guys have been so mad at me this week. I'm not a fan of this team. The San Francisco 49ers, top to bottom, have the best roster in the division. Now, the good thing that the Seahawks have going for them is, for whatever reason, they actually play very well against the 49ers. There's sort of a game of rock, paper, scissors going on in the NFC West, where you got the Cardinals sort of sitting at the kids' table eating Play-Doh, and then you have the San Francisco 49ers who own the Rams own the Seahawks, and the Seahawks seem to own the 49ers. The 49ers were a respectable team last year. I know the record maybe says otherwise. Despite all of those injuries, they still gave Seattle all that they could at the end of the year with CJ Beathard, as we call him on Danny and Gallant, under center. This is a 49ers team with Nick Bosa, with George Kittle, with Deebo Samuel, with Brandon Ayuk, with Fred Warner. That's got some of, I think, the most talented players in the division. And I'm very curious to see what they do at quarterback. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is as bad as a lot of people make him out to be. I don't think he's a great quarterback, and that's obvious, seeing as San Francisco traded all that to get up to the number 3 pick to get a quarterback. But I feel like if Jimmy Garoppolo could get that team to the Super Bowl before, maybe this quarterback at number 3, who Kyle Shanahan has been able to maximize the most out of, whether it's Matt Shaw or some of his other quarterbacks that he has worked with over the course of his career, I feel like he's going to get it right with whatever quarterback he takes at number 3. So I hate to say it, but I think it's San Francisco.
Now, before we get the other opinions there, I just got to acknowledge Chef Jack Attack, who's been busy in the super chat. He's anxiously hoping that we'll be taking some calls, because he says he's got an opinion on this. So hang on tight, Chef Jack Attack. We'll see if we can squeeze you in at the end of our little debate here. But let's keep the discussion going. Again, just jump in, guys. We don't have to necessarily take turns in here, but if you got a thought on here, I do think it is interesting that I've been saying for a while that I never thought that Jared Goff was a great quarterback, and now he's gone. And now they've got Matthew Stafford in here. I think that was going to be the big, the new quarterback in the division. What's going to happen there? And all of a sudden, now the 49ers looking to draft a quarterback. I'm likely here with the number 3 pick, giving up the farm to get to it. Does that put them over the edge? Because I felt like the 49ers were that one thing missing away from probably winning a Super Bowl a couple years ago to now being one of the top teams. It's hard to say that. I don't know if I could say I don't disagree with you, Paul, because the thought of them having an actual real quarterback, I was comfortable. I was comfortable with the fact that Goff was going to be there. I was comfortable with the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo, the 2G quarterbacks, I was okay if they just stayed there. But now they've changed things up. So now everything else has been competition. But now with the quarterbacks, all of a sudden we've got whole new faces, with the exception of Seattle and Arizona. We got 2 new kids potentially on the block here that are going to change the entire look of what those other teams look like. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Calvin, Squabo, Brian, jump in here, man. Any disagreements with Paul? The 49ers right now reign the NFC West?
Allow me to change your guys' mind. So going back to the 2019 season, right, when the San Francisco 49ers had that elite defense, and they pretty much took Jimmy G all the way over to the Super Bowl.
Hiccups on the internet. Hate when that happens.
About DeForest Buckner, he's one of the best defensive linemen in all of football. And we saw that with the Colts last season. And yes, I get it. The 49ers were injury ravaged last season. They didn't have a whole bunch of guys. Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas was lost in week 3. But look, the Niners, they're not going to have DeForest Buckner going into the season. They're not going to have Richard Sherman. I understand he's injury prone and he's not what he once was, but I'm just kind of comparing this defense to the 2019 defense. And yeah, even if San Fran drafts a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance or a Mac Jones, no rookie quarterback has ever guided a team to a Super Bowl. And so I'm not very confident in any of those quarterbacks, no matter how good the rookie season might be. I'm not confident in any of them steering the ship all the way over to the Super Bowl. And then there's always the injury concerns with the running backs. I know Kyle Shanahan is able to work magic with a fourth string or a first string or a second string running back, but Raheem Mostert can't seem to stay healthy. None of the running backs can seem to stay healthy. Their offensive line, one of the best in football. I don't really have too many problems about them, but I'm a little worried about their secondary. Jason Verrett's a solid piece. Emmanuel Mosley is a solid piece as well. But who's playing cornerback behind them? Who's their wide receiver 3 after Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk? I know George Kittle's one of the best tight ends in all of football, but I'm just not sure they have the best amount of weapons to work with for whoever they bring in at quarterback. Yes, a running game is going to help tremendously, but I'm not very sold on their defense, especially compared to what they once were in 2019. And I was going to say the Rams, but in looking at some of their losses this past offseason, I'm not so sure. First, they lost defensive coordinator Brandon Staley to the Chargers, and then they lost John Johnson, one of the best safeties in football, to the Browns. They lost Troy Hill, an underrated corner, to the Browns. They lost Michael Brockers. They traded him for a 7th-round pick to the Detroit Lions, and so they're missing a lot of pieces. Andrew Whitworth, the rock of their offensive line, he's only a year older. Austin Blythe has gone over to the Chiefs. They no longer have Gerald Everett. And so the Rams, yes, there's an upgrade at quarterback in Matthew Stafford, but are we even sure he's a top 10 quarterback in football? I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in football. And a lot of people are saying he's super talented and all that. I get it. He's an upgrade over Jared Goff, like I said, but is he really that much talented? I get it. He has a 5,000-yard season, but until I see him, I'm not going to be super confident in Matthew Stafford guiding this team to potentially the Super Bowl. I'm not as high on them as I was when they initially acquired Stafford, just because of all the losses that they suffered on defense. And then there's the Arizona Cardinals. I'm also very high on them. I think they're a dark horse in the NFC, not just the NFC West, but now that they don't have Kenyon Drake, who's running the football for him, I'm not very confident in Chase Edmonds. He's about by height. He's not going to be a feature running back for the Arizona Cardinals. And so I'm not super confident in their ground game. Their defense, who's in the secondary? Malcolm Butler was the best cornerback for the Titans last season, and they had one of the worst secondaries in all of football. And so they signed Malcolm Butler to replace Patrick Peterson, and I don't know if that's an upgrade. I think that's more of a downgrade. And so who's playing cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals? I think their secondary is going to be very leaky. They let Hassan Reddick go, who had 12.5 sacks last season. They did bring in J.J. Watt, who I'm still very high on. They didn't have Chandler Jones last season, but even with all those things being said, I think Arizona is a tier under Seattle. But if I had to rank these teams, I hate to sound like a homer, and I know I'm going to sound like a homer, but I'm real excited about the additions that Seattle made, and I truly feel that they're really a couple pieces away from a Super Bowl title. And I know there's still the draft. I know there's still some moves to be made, but I'm going to have to go Seattle, number 1, number 2, Arizona, number 3, San Fran, and number 4, LA.
And I'm gonna piggyback on what Steezy said, because I'm in the same boat. And it, call it a homer, whatever. I don't even care. I just feel like, okay, they're the division champs, right? Okay, so until somebody tells us otherwise, nothing changes. They've got the best quarterback in the division without question. They've already tried to do some moves to upgrade their offensive line. They've signed their arguably best wide receiver. Here's the thing, and Paul, I agree with you that San Francisco might have the best lineup top to bottom, the best roster, but ask the 2011 Philadelphia Eagles about their dream team roster that they had. And sometimes on paper it doesn't work out. Is Bosa and Kittle, were there injuries last year? Are we starting to see the wheels fall off their carts a little bit? Who knows? We'll find out, but it's a possibility that they're starting to hit the downsides of their career, because they're both extremely rough and tumble players. And Kittle seeks out contact, and you know he's been paying the price for it. So I think Seattle's the best team in the division. I agree with Steezy. I love Arizona. I think they got the second best quarterback in the division. Matthew Stafford aside, I'd be real curious to see how he adjusts to a new conference. I know there's a little bit of a learning curve, learning some of the tendencies of the DBs and things that he's had the last decade to know about in a different conference. So it's going to take him a little bit of time, I think, before he's in sync with his wide receiver. So I'm not worried about that. Garoppolo's junk. If they draft a quarterback, I'm not confident that quarterback's going to come in and do much. And the Rams, the Rams always give Seattle fits, so you can never rule them out. But I would put them kind of last in the division right now.
Oh, last. So you don't have much faith in Matthew Stafford.
No, and it's not necessarily his fault. I just think that there's going to be a learning curve, and I think that I just think that the other teams have improved themselves in multiple areas as to where the Rams have only improved themselves in one area. It's a big area, but only one area as far as I can see. If somebody sees differently, lay it on the table, because I'm not seeing it.
You mentioned dream team. The Cardinals are the dream team. The Cardinals, I'm sorry, I don't take them seriously at all. Where is the development from Kyler Murray last year with Cliff Kingsbury? I didn't see any of it. I see a guy in Cliff Kingsbury who doesn't know how to manage a game. I look at also the Cardinals. I love J.J. Watt. I covered him in Houston. Is J.J. Watt the same guy that he used to be? I don't know. Is Chandler Jones coming off of injury going to be the same guy? I think Arizona's clearly at the back. The Rams, all the points that you raised warranted, and Steezy, I'm with you too. Like Matt Stafford, are we sure he's that good? Everyone loves to tell us that he's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, and really quickly, because I didn't do the 1 through 4 before we get to you, Squabo, I would put right now San Francisco at 1. I think right now it's like a tie between Seattle and Los Angeles. I think just because the Rams weirdly have had the Seahawks number for such a long time and Leonard Floyd's still there, I feel like it's not going to be a great matchup next time around. And then, I got the Cardinals way back.
All right,
and that's understandable, because Kyler Murray did not have the greatest season, and you're right about the development, but I think that's one of those rare sophomore slumps, so to speak, that we haven't seen a lot around the NFL, and I think he went through it. Kyler Murray's got a similar personality to Russell Wilson, where I really doubt we'll see that type of season from him again. I don't know, but that's just my gut feeling about Kyler Murray.
We also got banged up. And in fact, it was playing against us. I think, it was Jaron Reed who put his 300-pound body on him, and his shoulder wasn't quite the same years. After that. So he might have been facing some issues. You've talked about injuries and being banged up. He might have had a few of his own. And again, which brings me always back to the Russell Wilson. How many times has Russell Wilson ever had injury being a factor in his career, his 9 seasons or almost a decade of being with the Seahawks? When has injuries ever been a factor in his career? Never. It's always been something else. It's always been his side businesses. It's his women in his life, the distractions. But
Norb, one time he had that ankle. He had the ankle, but did he ever actually miss time for it? He still found a way to get on the field. He didn't miss time, but he certainly wasn't mobile.
He was not mobile. You're right.
But that's as bad as it's gotten, and that's pretty darn good, right?
Yeah, for sure. It should be mentioned, Squab. We're not ignoring you. You're going up here next, but I think it should be mentioned because some people may not know this about Paul. But Paul you mentioned he covered the Texans, but before then, you were a fan of a certain team.
Oh yeah,
and it wasn't the Seahawks. It wasn't the Texans.
So let's start off first off with the fact that, yes, I did say that I like San Francisco at the top of the division this year. It's not like I root for San Francisco. I have assimilated to Seattle. I do like the Seahawks a lot. But I grew up in the greater Boston area. So sorry.
Boo.
Hey, that's fine. You can like them all you want now. They're trash.
Although Bill Belichick's trying to buy his way back into making this team good again, man. They were on the top of the spending.
You gotta love it, though. I love what we're seeing over there because it's completely different than what we've seen for the last 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when
won't be enough, though.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it's broke, you better try to figure out a way to fix it. He's trying to fix it right now. So, Squabba, what about you, man? Who's the best of the NFC West?
I think we should start with the worst. And I think we should start with the worst because, unfortunately, this team could also be the best. Like, any of these teams could be the best. We're looking at a 4th-place team in this division could be 8-8 this year. So let's make it very...
Come on, Xfinity. Don't do this to me.
The Arizona Cardinals as of right now, but like I said, this team can absolutely win the division. My problem as well is with their development, as well as some of the moves that they made. Losing Reddick is going to be huge for them. 12.5 sacks. How does Jones come back from injury? And J.J. Watt has not been the same in a long time. So I think they're going to be an improved roster, but does that push them past 4th in the division? I don't know this year. And will Kyler Murray be able to stay healthy? 3rd in the division, This is a tight one, but because of how tiebreakers go and how head-to-head matchups end up, this is where I put the Los Angeles Rams. I agree with Steezy that they've lost a lot of key pieces on that defense in that secondary this offseason, and we just re-signed for $69 million Tyler Lockett, who's going to have a tremendous impact against this defense moving forward. Is Matthew Stafford able to win in the spotlight? I sure as heck know there's a lot of pressure on him right now because he's had all these questions his entire career about if he can win the big game. Well, now he has to win the big game because they just traded their entire future to bring him in. So if there's pressure on him as the first overall pick, now there's more pressure than there ever was before, and we'll see if he's able to shine under the pressure. The second team in the division is the San Francisco 49ers. It is not the Seattle Seahawks. The San Francisco 49ers, their leading sacker last year, yes, Nick Bosa was out. Their leading sacker last year is in Seattle, Kerry Hyder. And if he was in Seattle last year, he wouldn't have been our leading sacker, Jamal Adams. We have so many great players on our defense. Now, our pass rush is phenomenal. Here's the thing with defenses. Yes, our cornerback department got worse. I completely agree with that, and that terrifies me. But the thing is, corners don't positively impact and help defensive linemen as much as defensive linemen and pass rushers positively impact and help corners. What I mean by that is if you have a great lockdown corner, even if you have one great lockdown corner, there are other receivers, there are other options for a quarterback to throw to. Whereas if you have one great pass rusher that can just keep getting to the quarterback, he's going to make all your corners look better. And now we have the best pass rush we've had since going to the Super Bowl. And what was a strength for San Francisco in their Super Bowl era is no longer a strength. Will Nick Bosa be able to stay healthy this year? Will he have the same impact coming off a horrible injury last season? Is their pass rush ever going to be the same as it once was? Not only are they without DeForest Buckner, they're without Solomon Thomas, who they passed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes for. This defense is not going to be the same as it once was. Their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo or Russell Wilson? Rookie quarterback or Russell Wilson? Either way, I like Russell Wilson. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf or Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk? I'm sorry, that also goes to Seattle. We took their best sacker. We took a tight end from the Rams, and their passing game coordinator made him our offensive coordinator. I say Seattle runs the West.
Yes, sir.
I love it, man. I love it. See, this is why I bring people like this on the roundtable, because you guys are so smart. You make me and my show seem smarter because you guys got all these facts. I love it. And so my take on it, because you guys already said all the information, but my ranking going from bottom to top, I say the Cardinals are at the bottom for a lot of the reasons you said. I still don't think Kyler Murray is there yet. I do think he'd had a little bit of a slump, and I don't know if he's going to take that next big step forward. Yeah, they had a lot of big names signings, but J.J. Watt, it's not J.J. Watt from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. This is the where we are now, and everybody's aging out, and he's getting towards the twilight of his career. Big name, but big performance yet to be seen. 49ers, yeah, I said with Paul, yeah, when you look at it from top to bottom, yeah, there's a lot about that defense to be scared of. But as Squabo so eloquently said, we took one of their biggest weapons on the defensive line and put it right here in our own. And I love that aspect of it. Now, they are going to be doing that big jump to try to get that quarterback, but it's a rookie quarterback. What can you really expect in the first round, and especially in a draft like this where we don't really know what these players are going to be looking like as they come in. And, how many times have we seen number one, top 10 quarterbacks drafted not perform as they're expected to? I mean, ask Chicago Bears, man. They're still looking, trying to get an answer at quarterback. The Rams, I got them at second because they are always a constant pain in our butts. Until we could prove that they're not going to be, they're always going to be there. However, like we pulled it off this season, I think Seattle finds a way to reach the top of the division. And it's like you said, Squabo says, pass rush. This is the best pass rush. I've never been so excited about this pass rush since, like you said, since the year we won a Super Bowl. This has been one of the deepest lines we've had in terms of the pass rush. And we've got players who haven't even really seen the field yet. Darrell Taylor. I know the Seahawks are high on this guy, and we haven't even seen him yet. And we drafted him last year and even never saw the field. So it's seeing what he might be able to do, in addition to all the big names that we got. Carlos Dunlap coming back. Hyder, like you mentioned. Just a few of the reasons, and I think a big reason why that makes less pressure on the cornerback. Because right now, I don't think we've got the best cornerback in the room in the league, but we've got a great defensive line, and it starts in the trenches. I think they'll make up for the fact and put less pressure on those guys in the back end. So I like Seattle, not by a lot. I think this division is going to be pretty tight, like neck and neck, but Seattle will find a way to pull ahead. So,
real quick, Paul Third in the super chat says losing Hyder as a backup won't affect the Niners. That's blasphemous. He had 8.5 sacks for them last year. Their next leading sacker, I know Bosa was injured. Their next leading sacker had 3.5. You remember 2 years ago when Rasheem Green was our leading sacker with 4 sacks and how atrocious and how sad that was for Seattle?
Yeah.
Well, their next leading sacker has less than him. Nick Bosa's coming back, but Kinlaw has been disappointing. Their defensive interior has serious questions, and now so does their pass rush.
Well, Kinlaw was last year. You do have to think about that. And I also will say, it's sorry, Steezy, I'll let you finish that point. D Ford, Eric Armstead, those guys are good. Nick Bosa, when he is healthy, and I do believe he's going to be able to bounce back. He's a young player. He's scary. You got Fred Warner in the middle of that defense. You can't sneer at the 49ers defense. And yes, moving on from Kerry Hyder, that was a decision that they made, and they thought to themselves, you know what? Kerry Hyder hasn't done a whole lot since he was in, I think, Detroit, where he had the 8-sack season a couple of years ago. They have to bet on the guys that they currently have, though, and the guys that they currently have are pretty good. I think in the case of Seattle could not have afforded to let Carlos Dunlap walk. It's fantastic that he is back. I think San Francisco can afford to let a guy like Kerry Hyder walk.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's saying they're trash. Right? No one's saying they're trash. Like I said, I think it's going to be tight. I don't think the margin from fourth to first is that big. I think it's going to be a very close division in a tough division that it is. Steezy, you had something to say.
Would it be a hot take to say that all NFC West teams are going to finish above 500, or is that crazy?
Might be a little easier now that the 17-game schedules.
Right.
We haven't talked about that. That's one more game to get them.
500 teams.
You're either over or under.
Yeah,
exactly. But real fast, I just wanted to address the 49ers defense one more time. So the guy that they chose over DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, who they signed to a 5-year, $85 million contract extension last offseason, had 3 sacks. So he had a chance to carve out an opportunity for himself and to show that he's worthy of that 5-year, $85 million contract, yet instead he let a guy like Kerry Hyder lead the team in sacks with 8.5 compared to his 3. And so I'm not sure San Fran made the right decision in choosing Eric Armstead over DeForest Buckner, even if he was a little cheaper. But with that aside, another concern I have with the San Francisco 49ers is their secondary. Look, they did re-sign Jason Verrett, but how many 16-game seasons has he played in his entire career? So just like Seattle, they're relying on a number one corner in Jason Verrett, who might not be able to be there for the entire season. Emmanuel Mosley, I'm not too sure about his availability on a year-in, year-out basis, but I'm not too confident, or I'm not as sold on him either. But all that aside, I'm still high on San Fran. I mean, me putting San Fran at number 3 on my NFC West rankings doesn't mean that they're not going to finish above 500. Just because I have them at number 3, but like I said earlier, I think all 4 teams finished above 500. So.
And one more thing to your point, Steezy, on guys not coming back. If Richard Sherman elects not to go back to the Niners, listen, take his on-field play out of the equation. That dude is the consummate teacher. He's extremely savvy and smart when it comes to knowing what's coming up, reading plays, watching film. He knows how to teach guys how to watch film. He knows how he was the glue that organized those guys to give them that attitude. So whatever he gave them on the field was almost like a bonus with his injuries. So just having him not in that locker room detracts from that defense.
Fair point. Though Mosley is the one who kind of knocked Ahkello Witherspoon out of a job, and that might be one of Seattle's starting corners this coming season. Richard Sherman, that is a guy who brings a lot of invaluable expertise to the table. But at a certain point, too, you got to look at the speed that he's bringing in.
Yeah.
It's not what it used to be, sadly. I love Richard Sherman. I would love to see him back here, as the very least.
And let's face it, Richard Sherman was never the most athletic guy on the field. Right. He didn't play on athleticism. He played on the brains. And when you saw the Super Bowl against Kansas City, I mean, that speed was definitely something that was used against him. I'll just say this about the sack numbers, and sacks are a good way to
judge whether or not a guy's worthy of a big time contract. But I will also say, for a team that had the kind of injuries that San Francisco had last year, I think you have to look at some of those statistics and take them with a bit of a grain of salt, because it was a weird year. How good of a pass rush can you have when you're trailing in games and your quarterbacks, Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard, so that is one factor to take a look at it. But points granted, and Steezy, I'm with you. I mean, DeForest Buckner is a hell of a player. And honestly, in retrospect, I bet they do regret instead choosing one of the outside guys as opposed to having an interior defensive line featuring DeForest Buckner and Nick Bosa. I mean, take a look at the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl with Vita Vea and with Ndamukong Suh and Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaquille Barrett. I mean, that is a line.
My goodness.
Yeah. That's really good.
So, Paul, would you say that then some of those defensive linemen for the 49ers were kind of in the Jadeveon Clowney category, where they maybe weren't getting the sacks, but they were doing other things, freeing up other guys, putting pressure, allowing some other guys to put pressure in the pocket?
And I would have to study it a lot more to Brian 100% say that. But yeah, I mean, there are guys like that every single year. One of my old co-hosts in Houston, Seth Payne, he played for the Jaguars and for the Texans for 10 years total. And he said, like, some of the best moves that he ever made, like the quarterback got the ball out in 1 second. Some of the worst moves, he ended up getting sacked. It's weird how it works like that. So, not the end-all be-all when it comes to it, but definitely granted that, they will be missing Kerry Hyder's 8.5 sacks. They will be missing some of those, but I feel like with some of the guys that they have in there, assuming that this offense is back on the right track and they actually are operating with a lead again, which I would imagine they will, because I think Kyle Shanahan can turn chicken salad or chicken bleep into chicken salad. I do think that there will be in more situations for San Francisco where they can get after the passer the way that they were so good at in 2019.
So we got a couple super chats in here. Chef Jack Attack is anxious to get a call in. I will bring them in just a minute, but I want to read this from Alexander Cordero. He says, if the Niners draft Justin Fields, we're in trouble, is his thoughts on the number 3 pick. I don't know if you guys have opinions on that, but I don't know.
Agreed.
Ohio State quarterbacks, I don't want
Stay
to
away from them.
Dwayne Haskins, Cardale Jones, Troy Smith, Braxton Miller, who got moved to wide receiver. And I would also say the same thing to an extent about Alabama. We'll see with Tua Tagovailoa. We'll see with Mac Jones. The guys who play at these super programs like Alabama, back in the day, USC, buyer beware when you're bringing a quarterback in, because you will likely be going from a situation where you are always going to have like the best talent around you to a situation where probably it's not going to be the same and you're going to face a different kind of adversity. Honestly, I'm not going to make any rash judgment on Justin Fields right now. I would just say I have a bit of a bias against Ohio State quarterbacks just based off of history, and I think it's fair to have it. But I would love to see Justin Fields prove me wrong, just not on the San Francisco 49ers.
And you can go all the way back to the early 80s with Art Schlichter out of Ohio State. Now, I know he had other issues, but even with the Colts, or by the time he actually got to play in the NFL, he wasn't good. And you're right, those super programs a lot of times are surrounded with so much talent and don't face as much adversity that they struggle. Now, you never know with the draft, right? There's no such thing as a sure thing, but anybody can be fantastic, picked at any position at any point in time in the draft, and you can have your top 5 picks all be busts. So you do all the research, you do the combines, you watch them jump around in their underwear, and when it comes down to it, you just don't know until they get on the field in the NFL.
Yeah, especially in a year like this. All right, let's grab a couple calls on the Discord. We'll start with Chef Jack Attack just because he's been banging on the door to get in here. So we'll take a couple calls, get some questions. We are wrapping the show up at 6:30, so about 20 minutes left before we wrap things up. But Chef Jack Attack, welcome to the show, man. It's good to hear from you. What's on your mind?
How are you, Norb?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to talk to you. You have opinions, I hear.
Yes, I do. And okay, so if we're doing our best team in the NFC West, I think that is maybe the best division of all football. And I think every team is good. And I think every team, I know every team is pretty much great. And I think every team will finish above 500. But so if we're going for my worst team is the Cardinals. I know they just had a big signing in J.J. Watt, which I loved. I think most people agree with me, though. They are not the best. They are a young team, I would say. I mean, not like a really young team, but they do have a young quarterback in Kyler Murray, who is a good player. I think he will be great. He is not my favorite player of all time. He's a good player, similar to like a Russell Wilson. Anyway, my third pick. Oh my God, you guys are going to hate me for this. I mean, okay, I'm going to give you a reason why. The third team is the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, man.
Wow.
What? Go ahead.
Chef Jack Attack has left the Discord.
Oh, yeah, Scott, I'm still here. So, the second team, I have the 49ers. And for the first team, I have first team in the division. I think the best team is the LA Rams, and I'm going to give you my opinion why here. So the LA Rams, I think they have lost a lot of pieces on their defense, but they have just a big upgrade on their quarterback in Matthew Stafford, which I am not too excited about not too happy about as a Seahawks fan.
Oh, I think Paul Allen's company heard your opinion there and said, enough of this.
Hey, I gotta give Chef Jack Attack some credit, man. He came with some good thoughts, well organized. Maybe they weren't right, and it sounds like he's too young to be drinking beer.
Right. Yeah, Chef Jack Attack is from the East Coast, and it's about 12 to 13
our
years
sleeper,
old.
Arizona. People come November, people are gonna go, damn, Steezy and Abker knew it was up.
Y'all crazy.
We'll call it now. Call it now.
I want to ask you guys.
I've been.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick. I've been messaging Jack Attack on Instagram. He's actually been showing me some of the stuff. Like he's actually like a chef, and obviously like that's his name, but he really be cooking stuff up. And he was showing me some fancy ways to make some scrambled eggs, but like better. Like I can't wait for the stuff that this guy puts out. Like he's really brilliant.
Nice.
Yeah, we're not talking Chef Boyardee here, man. This guy's serious. He knows what he wants to do, and it's just a matter of time. He's one of the youngest chefs I've ever heard of, so pretty impressive. Let me go to another one here. I know that Sky High Aviation really wanted to be on the show today. I told them at least you can at least call in and get your question or thoughts heard. So Sky High Aviation, you there? Sky High. Oh, I unmute you here. Sky High Aviation.
I am.
You there? You seem like he's muted. Well, maybe he's not. Maybe he's not there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's on your mind?
We got to get Sky High on. These guys designed my logo, which is phenomenal, man. We got to hear from Sky High.
Yeah, that's right. The logo right here, which will pop into the screen right there on the bottom left corner there. Sky High Aviation, man.
Yeah.
Yep, looking good. So
Love
what's your question, Sky High? Hopefully this connection's good enough. What you got?
Sorry, my internet is cutting out.
It's a little choppy. I can hear you now. Go for
where
it.
it's a bit more quieter.
Go for it, man. Oh, we lost him again. All right. Well, we'll just keep it. Let's keep it going here. I did want to ask you guys. So we talked about the NFC West. We obviously have some agreeing opinions, some disagreements. But who do you think is the best team in the NFC? If you were to just say right now, who goes back to the Super Bowl? Just throw out what team you think at this point of the game. Who's the best chance at it? Let's go. Let's go, Paul. Let's go with you, man.
Yeah, Steezy, you're right. It's Tampa Bay. It's Tom Brady. But it's not just Tom Brady. I mean, we talk about Brady having won that Super Bowl, and look, this is a guy I've grown up rooting for, so I'm obviously a little biased on that front. But Brady wasn't the reason they won that Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl because they could run the football. They have those running backs back. They have that offensive line back. They have some of the best weapons in the NFL at wide receiver. Defensively, that's probably the best pass rush in the league as well. You add it all up, and the way that they finished the season, and the fact that they are returning 22 of their 22 starters, you got to pick them now. Things are obviously going to change as the season goes along, but right now on paper, man, I'm having a hard time picking anybody else. And, well, at the very least, the Green Bay Packers are not as fraudulent as they were in the 2019 NFC Championship game. I still feel like when it comes to their defense, there was a lot lacking there. And even with 3 straight interceptions of Tom Brady in that NFC Championship game on 3 straight drives, they weren't able to take advantage of it. So much for Aaron Rodgers' MVP season. I think it's the Bucs, and we'll see as the season progresses. But man, they closed out the season so strong with that winning streak that they had after starting off 7-5.
Yeah, it was an incredible run. I'm not even convinced that the Buccaneers are the best team in the NFC, but I still think they're the ones to beat. They're the favorites to go to the Super Bowl. Obviously, as a Seahawks fan, I think Seattle's going to do some special things again this season, and we're going to have to see how their health is when it comes to the playoffs, how the injuries are. I think that's going to be the biggest factor for the Seahawks in their playoff run. But yeah, I would say the Buccaneers as well.
I don't know. I thought the Buccaneers, they had a lot of luck on their side. A lot of things bounced their way to make it to, I'm not saying totally luck, but definitely if you were to play the NFC Championship game 2 out of 3, are you going to tell me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would sweep the Packers? I mean, they could have easily lost that game. They could have easily been the Packers. And I don't know if the Packers take a step back this year or kind of, I don't have a good sense as to where they have improved or dropped down in the scheme of things. But last year, Packers should have won that game. I think they should have won that game. They made some bad mistakes.
The Bucs whooped them in the regular season, and I think you look at Green Bay. There's something missing, and it's weird because last 2 seasons, Matt LaFleur, he's not the most intimidating coach, but somehow he has put together over the last 2 years, 2 13-3 regular seasons. But, for all that, they had home field advantage against a team from Florida and at Lambeau Field, and they lost.
Yeah.
And real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, real quick, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Mr. Paul was saying. So the Packers had 3 INTs, and that led to, if I'm not mistaken, 0 points.
Yeah.
0 points. If not 0, then they had 1 field goal off of 3 picks. And so they were given 3 opportunities, 3 gifts, and they choked.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I don't think they should have won.
The 2 teams that we're talking about there, the Buccaneers and the Packers, their quarterbacks had the 2 most interesting seasons maybe we've seen in 10 or 20 years, simply because of Tom Brady's saga. He leaves the team after 20 years where he was going to the Super Bowl half the time or more, and actually took this team and won the Super Bowl. That's incredible. And then there's Aaron Rodgers, who after the last draft was like, what are you guys doing? You got me no weapons. You draft a backup quarterback. He came on numerous talk shows and obviously wasn't happy. Ends up taking his team to the NFC Championship game and probably fell 1 player short of being able to advance to the Super Bowl again. I think those storylines are amazing, and I want to see how those develop next year.
Squabbo, you didn't really put a team out there, or did you? Are you in agreement that you think it's Tampa Bay as well?
No, I think it's Tampa Bay, and I think it's Tampa Bay pretty clearly. I don't think they have a hole on their roster right now, and going into the draft, that's a great place to be. They're building depth. They're able to take the most talented player on the board. They re-signed everyone by doing some kind of manipulation to that salary cap that is over my pay grade. But they've done so many great things this offseason. After coming off a Super Bowl victory, they have momentum. They did it in an offseason where they couldn't be within 6 feet of each other. So this is going to be a much different year for Tampa Bay. I don't expect to struggle early on. That's going to be the biggest difference. I have Tampa.
Well, let's flip it to the other side. AFC. Who's going to be the representative out of there?
Oof.
Paul.
This one's easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it easy?
Is it?
Is it easy? I'll let you guys go first on this one.
Okay. All right. Well, Calvin, Steezy A. Smith. Steezy, you sounded so confident. What is it then?
They got to be the Chiefs. I mean, look, their offensive line was one of the major issues, obviously, in the Super Bowl. Yeah, they had injuries, but those guys are away with, and now they have one of the best guards in football, Joe Tooney. I like the addition of Jaron Reed. You look at, he had 10.5 sacks in 2018, right? Well, who was he playing alongside? He was playing alongside Frank Clark. Well, not only is he playing alongside Frank Clark, he's also playing alongside one of the best defensive tackles in all of football, and Chris Jones. And so I could see another 10-plus sack season from Jaron Reed. And so I'm super excited about their defensive line. Their secondary has always been stingy. I'm super excited about their offensive line. And, I mean, they just saw Sammy Watkins, so I'm pretty sure they're going to look to replace his production with a receiver in this draft class. Patrick Mahomes, as good as he is, I think he can still get better. I don't think he's really truly in his prime yet. I mean, he's 25, 26 years old. And so I think there's still room for him to grow, as scary as that sounds. And obviously Eric Bieniemy is going to return yet again as an offensive coordinator. Andy Reid, he's always doing his thing. And I think the Raiders got weaker. The Broncos still don't have a quarterback, and the Chargers, they're going to be better, but I think the Chargers is the only real competition in their division. And so I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Chiefs. I think the only other team in the AFC that could push for that is the Bills. Other than that, I feel like the AFC, when you compare it to the NFC, is extremely weak.
Yeah, Bills is what I was going to say, but we'll leave Paul's for last, as you say, wanted to defer to the others. Squabo says, what does Squabo say?
I like the Chiefs as the favorite. I don't think they're as much of a heavy favorite after the losses on their offensive line. I think Pat Mahomes comes a little bit down to earth without as much protection and starts to understand Russell Wilson syndrome. But this is obviously really early on in the process. We still have the draft. We still have some free agency time. So this is very, very preliminary opinions. There are other teams that should be considered. And obviously Buffalo is one of them. Baltimore is one of them. Cleveland is one of them. And Cleveland, there was an injury last year in the playoffs that allowed Cleveland to get back in that ball game. But Cleveland also, those huge losses to the Rams secondary were huge additions for Cleveland. So look for that to help Cleveland moving forward. So I think Cleveland's a sleeper next year that not a lot of people are talking about, and their style could prove problems for Kansas City.
All right, Paul, before you answer that question, let me quickly just address some super chats that piled up here. Anthony D says, hey, bud, really good question. When are you doing another filmmaking Zoom call? I want to know so I can be on time and on my day off from work. I will let you guys know I'm overdue for another filmmaking 101 session, so I will definitely fill you guys in on that. Also, Drive Swizz says, I personally think the Bucs were a one-hit wonder. And then Anthony D just says, don't forget my $5 super chat, which I just talked about. So I'll be in touch on that. One hit wonder, says Drive Swizz. I don't know. I'm still leaning towards. I don't want to see a repeat of this same show. We just saw this last year. Parody in the NFL. Are we really going to see the Bucs and Chiefs again? We just saw this last year. That's not supposed to happen in this new NFL with a new playoff scheme with 17 games. But you guys are saying that's what it's going to be. Paul, tell me there's something else. I want a different movie here.
So Kansas City is the easy pick, and I am with you in that they are going to be really tough for a lot of teams to beat. But it's going to be tough for them to get back to the same spot. And I mean, they just retooled their entire offensive line this offseason. How is that going to look? So I'm going to give you a couple of dark horses because will be honest, it's hard to feel particularly confident. Browns are interesting, but they got to figure out a way to consistently score points. And in that game, you're right. It was only a game because of the injury that took place with Patrick Mahomes. This is the one that you should take a look at. And again, take it with a grain of salt. But I would imagine the odds are going to be a little favorable on you if you're perhaps a gambling person. I am very intrigued by the reunion of Frank Reich and Carson Wentz in Indianapolis. I say that because you go back to 2017, Carson Wentz was going to be the MVP until he tore his ACL diving for a touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams. Weirdly, Nick Foles steps in. I have no idea how he went on that Super Bowl run that he did, but he did. And ever since then in Philadelphia, city that is, I just think, unbelievably difficult for anyone to play in. It was just tough for him to live up to the standard that Nick Foles made in just one playoff run. I'm curious as to what Reich and Wentz can do together. I do think Wentz has a lot of talent. I'm not sure it's going to look very pretty early on in the year because I think Wentz has some bad habits to shake. But of all of the teams that I feel like are an intriguing alternate choice outside of a Kansas City, if Carson Wentz can get back to the guy that he used to be, and he's in Indianapolis, and they play that game at home, and they've got some of those pieces on defense, and they got those running backs, and T.Y. Hilton's back. That is a really, I think, intriguing possibility in the A.
Oh, Xfinity. Come on now. Carson Wentz.
Such a foregone conclusion this time around for Kansas City, like it has been seemingly the last 2 to 3 years.
Interesting. Yeah, Carson Wentz, the guy you're talking about. We haven't seen him in a long time. But then is that the fault of Carson Wentz or is that the fault of the coaching and the team around him? It's kind of like the Matthew Stafford thing, right? Everybody likes to say Matthew Stafford's great, but it was because he was in Detroit. Well, we're going to find out whether it's just, is it the water that the fish was in, or if you put the fish in a different fish bowl, he's going to swim a lot differently. You're kind of saying the same thing. Take Carson Wentz out of Philly, put him over in Indianapolis. Could he be suddenly a different guy? We've seen it happen before, but will it happen in this case? We're getting down to the last couple minutes here. We will try to give Sky High Aviation one more chance to get his question in here. Sky High Aviation, do you have your connection?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Are we
yes.
better?
Yes.
Oh, thank God.
All right, what you got?
By the way, before I begin, while Paul was talking, I noticed that Brian Abker was just standing along his balcony, and I couldn't help but think it looked like a 2000s album cover or something, because he's just staring off into the sky with the background
Creed.
and everything. And I'm just thinking,
What you know about the 2000s, bro?
I love it.
I'm just saying.
No, that's a
That's
good one.
awesome.
I'm with you.
No, he's accurate. I don't know how he knows about it, but he's right.
Girl.
Yeah. All right, so what's on your mind, man? What's your thoughts about this whole NFC West, Super Bowl, whatever thing? What do you got?
Well, I really think, we've known this for like the past 4.5 years, that the NFC West is the best division in football. So I was thinking, well, of course, it always gets better, but you guys, I think, were talking earlier about who's the best team in the West. And if you think about it, I know Chef was talking about Arizona and all that, but I really think that it's a two-man race right now. No matter how many people come back from the 49ers, no matter how close the Cardinals get. The Cardinals, I think, again, they're still a year away. They're taking that process. Kyler Murray is still kind of developing into that real, unique QB that we love to see. But the real team I'm intrigued about, again, is the Rams. And they've somehow been able to be real quiet this offseason without having anything really change much. They were able to retain the one guy that they needed to, and that was Leonard Floyd. They were able to go out and make the big splash. They were able to go dump Jared Goff all the way to snowy Detroit. So I think the Rams kind of inched themselves into a bit of a, we're going to take back this division. Seattle's been in charge, and San Francisco's just been changing roles. It's been like a constant war. Somebody's in control, then they lose control, somebody's back in. But I'm going to tell you this, Seattle's close. Because if you think about it, what makes a team really good is when you have a young core of players and you have veterans to surround your guys around this. So I'm going to take the 2013 Seahawks, for example, right here. Now, they were a really young team, but here and there they added some veterans that made them really good. They added Michael Bennett. They added Cliff Averill. I know it's mostly on the defensive line because the secondary was young. But on the offensive side, they had veterans that have stayed with the team, like Golden Tate. They added some maturity to that offensive line. And I'm thinking about it, Seattle's really close to where they are right now. They have Russell Wilson, considering he's the veteran right now. They're adding some guys like Gabe Jackson. They're adding some other older guys. They still have Dwayne Brown, but they still have that young core at the same time. And on defense, I know, hate me or love it, I think that obviously we're going to try and bring back KJ, but I think we should bring Sherm as well. What does it hurt to bring Richard Sherman back to add some of that veteran presence? Because look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They added a young core, and they added a bunch of veterans around those players, and they were able to build on success. They were able to build through that. That's kind of what the Rams are doing right now, and the Seahawks kind of trending towards that direction. Kind of what you see with the new super teams now, unlike other than Kansas City, because they have a bunch of young dudes. And
hey, Sky High, you make some great points, man. I got to cut you off here because we're close to closing time here. Great points. But I think, if I'm understanding you, I think you and I are on the same page. So basically, Seahawks right here, Rams right here. I think is what you're saying. Yeah, we're close. But we're right on top of there, I think. All right, man. Sky High Aviation, thank you for your points there. And yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be tight no matter what. But we've come to that time, man. Time goes by fast when we're doing a fun show like this. Drive Swizz with the final super chat says, I know this is very off topic, but it's crazy that only a few weeks ago we were criticizing Pete and John. Trust the process. Hey man, I
wasn't.
I told
Not
Paul,
everybody was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that understand that Pete Carroll can still coach, that defense and running never go out of style. They might say his style's antiquated. That's a bunch of bull. And John Schneider's an extremely smart general manager who loves to make moves and take risks and do stuff. You got that combination, you're always going to be in it.
Well, I told Paul when I was a guest on your show how Seahawks fans are just crazy. We're crazy in a good way and crazy in a bad way. So when things even look like they're slightly wavering off, it's like the sky is falling. Oh, we need to sign people like everybody else is doing. Russell Wilson, where's he go? What's all this about? And in the end, it's like they just kind of keep doing their thing. And then somehow it all just sort of falls into place. So anyway, it's crazy. It is a crazy year, crazy offseason. But we've come to that final time here. So I want to make sure I give you guys a chance to promote what you guys got going on your shows this week. So let's start. Paul, let's start with you. We'll work around the horn. So Paul, first time on the roundtable. It was awesome to have you on here. Of course, you can find him on 710 ESPN radio, but tell everybody a little bit more detail about what they can expect to find when they tune into your show.
Well, you're going to hear a loud person talking about the sports, and hopefully you're not too turned off by half of the opinions that come out. Trust me, I'm not a shock jock, but sometimes I say things that might rub you the wrong way. I am at Gallant Size on Twitter, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. And my show, if you wake up bright and early, 7 to 10 every single morning with Danny O'Neill, who's been covering Seattle sports for years and years and years. And then after that, it's just me by myself, 10 to 11, and things get a little bit weird. And we'd like to hear from you on that show, whether you call in, you text in, you tweet me, you get after me on Facebook if you're still one of those people, which honestly, I don't blame you if you still are one of those people. So there you go, guys. And this was a pleasure. Seriously, thank you so much. I'm honored that you guys had me on, and I'd love to do it again sometime. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for carving out some time to be on here. Maybe next time we'll have a little more time. You can play the trivia and see how smart you are against some of these very smart people on the internet, like Sky High Aviation, who he won the last trivia contest. And man, some of these guys amazes me how either how sharp they are or how quick they are to Google things. One or the other, they're very sharp. So not to take away, they're very clever. Let's go to Calvin Domingo, Steezy A. Smith. Man, tell everybody what you got going on. What can they look for from you this week? Since things are blown up for you lately. What's going on?
Thank you. Once again, look, this was a blast. Can't wait to hopefully do it again sometime with you guys. Be sure to subscribe to everybody over here. Be sure to hit that like button, drop a comment for us, show us some love, man. Once you do that, then you can find me on all social media platforms at Steezy A. Smith, SteezyASmith. Just dropped a video, like I said earlier today. It's an NBA video, and I know a lot of my subscribers are Seahawks fans, and so I don't know how many NBA fans are out there, but if you guys, if that's of any interest to you, it is called The Biggest Threat to the Brooklyn Nets for East Supremacy. I dropped 3 Seahawks videos in the span of a week, and so a lot of those are doing really well. I'm actually really surprised of all the views are, starting to come out, and so those aren't time sensitive, and so they haven't expired yet. If you guys haven't already, be sure to check those.
Leading the band over there. He's got his hands in everything, and I couldn't be more proud to watch these guys grow their careers and be a part of it. And it was really cool, Paul, that you joined us. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. You're awesome. And, I am up that early, but I usually don't. I try to get my brain clear, but I might have to dial up and hear some of those opinions of yours because I like the style.
The most interactive sports talk show. All right.
Seattle.
Yep. So, Abker, why don't you go fly a kite or something, man? Because I see someone flying a kite back there, or somebody parasailing. I can see floating in the window back there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a parasail. You get on a board and then you hook that thing to it, and then you go across the lake.
Oh, it's a parasail. Okay, I did that on my honeymoon, man. It was.
Or not parasail. Parasail's on the back of a boat. This thing straps to your body, right? You got like a vest on and it's hooked to it, and then you've got like a board on your feet, and then you just get on the lake and let that thing whip you around.
You should go out there and try it, man. It looks fun. Oh, it's crashing. Boom! And there it is. It bites the dust. Ooh. The sail has hit the earth. Just as we caught that on there.
I like to sit up here with my cold adult beverage and watch all the people have the fun down there.
It's a beautiful view, man. Glad we can finally see it here. All right, so Squabble, last but certainly not least, Squabbo says on social media, what you got going this week, man?
New logo dropping out to the show, but also I'm taking like Steezy and putting a big NBA video out later on this week. It's not going to be today, probably not tomorrow, but stay tuned. NBA content coming to my channel.
All right, so before we wrap up, I want to ask just one little trivia question. Go around the horn. We'll start with Paul and work our way around. Favorite sports movie?
I've seen this movie so many times. It's an unconventional one. I can quote pretty much the whole movie, starring Danny Glover, Tony Danza, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Matthew McConaughey.
No.
I'm of course talking about Angels in the
Angels in the outfield.
Let's go! Fantastic movie. I've seen that at least 48 times.
Nice. How about you?
Wild.
How about you, Steve Z. A. Smith? Favorite sports movie?
So I know last time this question was asked, I had one answer. Now actually I have a 3-way tie. So The Blind Side, Coach Carter, and The Longest Yard.
Longest Yard, the original or the remake?
Oh, it was an original?
Oh, God.
You ain't gonna need to look at the old one.
Steve, you got to watch the original, man.
Burt Reynolds.
With Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, yep. Not saying it's better. I mean, just say there's an older one. But all right, good list. How about you, Abker?
You're gonna feel old, Stacey.
How about you, Brian?
That's tough because do you break it up into two categories with the comedy and drama? I'm going to say Major League and Rudy. Those are probably two of my favorites.
Nice. Squabbo.
I'll keep it simple, man. Facing the Giants. That was one that really, touched my heart.
All right.
Never seen it.
So for me, I'd have to say that's tough. Rudy's great. I don't know if Rocky. That's a sports movie, right?
Oh God.
Rocky's a sports, but that's a great movie, right?
Picture. It's cheating.
And then Field of Dreams. There's another great one too, right there. So all very different. Awesome. And I love the music from Remember the Titans. Great movie too, but love the score.
Great movie. Yeah, it's a great movie.
All right, and with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of the NorbCam Roundtable. I'm NorbCam, your host. Thanks to all my guests here, Paul Gallant, Calvin Domingo, Steve Z. A. Smith, Brian Abker, and Squabbo, Noah Boelter at Squabbo Says. Thank you guys for watching, and check out these other videos out here. You don't have to stop watching. Just click over here. Make sure you subscribe. Follow all these guys. They do some great work. Catch Paul in the air and catch Abker on Facebook saying a few more colorful words than he does on this show. And we'll see you guys next time. Go Hawks, baby.